Hi, I want to talk today about Jainism. I didn't put up a video originally, and just thought I would put up something short about sort of my impression of Jainism. I don't claim to be a Jainism expert by any means, and so I want to talk a little bit about it, but just in a video format, but not necessarily go into a long, detailed thing. What kind of got me thinking about it I was thinking about it over the weekend. I was in my hometown, and my sons were with me, as well as my brother and his two little girls, who are both older than my boys. But and we were all there, and they were playing. And at some point, my son and my niece were kind of playing, and they were bumping heads or whatever, and so I said no, because I could tell she was about ready to get upset by his aggressiveness or whatever, and so I kind of pulled him away, and he reached up and grabbed her hair, and as he pulled back, she didn't really get all upset, but I, of course, had to put him in timeout immediately, because he came back with, a clump of hair, like 30 pieces. It was a big clump of hair, and I don't know if it had come undone on one of her hair ties or what the deal was there, but he pulled out this big clump of hair, and of course I was a little bit horrified by it, and she just acted like it was nothing. But that sort of reminded me of Jainism, because Jainism, when you become a Jainist monk, you actually take your hair and pull it out in order to become bald. And so that's sort of one of the first penance rituals and the beginning of your career in Jainism. My hair is definitely messy. That's sort of one of the first steps that you go through. And so I think that always it just sort of reminded me of that. And, I find the Jainists interesting in just the extremity of their asceticism. That their asceticism is so crazy. In a lot of ways, there's this question of, are they Buddhist or are they, are they Buddhist or are they Hindus, or are they their own religion? Well, they're not Hindus to a certain degree because they diverge and they don't accept Vedic authority. Now, a lot of Hindus don't accept Vedic authority and have views that are different from that, but they don't directly reject it. And so the Jainists doing that does. They're not really Buddhists, because Buddhists don't adhere to this extreme level of asceticism, although they do have sort of a very similar approach to trying to seek out, sort of a nirvana stage, that trying to sort of do that, but through a more ascetic lifestyle. Now, the strongest group of these is a group by the name of the Digambara. I'm not exactly sure if I pronounced that right, but just the extreme asceticism. Now, they are in India, so it is a little warmer there, but the men actually don't wear clothes. Women do, but that's part of, probably just cultural norms that you wouldn't expect women to walk around naked. But in that sect, women aren't expected to be able to reach the state of Kavala, or the sort of nirvana type stage, because they just don't believe women can, but they also wear clothes. And there's another sect where they actually do wear clothes. Now, just sort of the extremity. I love some of the stuff they do as part of this idea. Like, they believe that every creature is equal. It doesn't matter if it's a microbe or a bug or whatever. You would carefully protect it because it has a soul, and its soul is of equal value to yours. And to kill its soul at the price for your soul is just unacceptable. And so they're very guarded about that. And so they just do all these extreme things, like they eat as little as possible, because even the act of consumption of food and the drinking of water and other things is going to kill animals. And they strain all of their water before they drink it. And they try to restrict the drinking. And they would rather die of thirst and die of hunger than to, they say it's greater to die of thirst and hunger than to kill, these amoebas. And so some of them actually do starve themselves to death. They strain it. They take all their food in their hands. They cup their hands together, and they actually collect up I think it's 32 morsels of food per day. and they eat it out of their hands. And the reason they do that is if they ate it in a bowl, they'd have to wash the bowl, and that whole process could very easily kill little animals, microbes, and creatures. And so that's all very, just the extremity to which they do that, to me, is interesting. They carry a little brush around and they sweep in front of them as they walk in order to make sure no bugs or any other creatures are there that they would step on. And I just think that some of that stuff is just really interesting. Now, there's the other group, this Shedambara, that they actually will use a bowl to eat their food, and the people wear clothes. They're not quite as... Although the only thing that they're more extreme on is they will wear a mouth shield, and the reason for wearing a mouth shield is so that they don't accidentally inhale a bug. So that's... do it. They say it's better to die fasting and than to kill other animals for food. Now, the other things I found interesting was that they do, we're sort of looking at the people who are monks and nuns, the religious class. They do have laity. The laity are mainly, to a large degree, they're the ones who provide the food because these people are walking around naked. I mean, they're not going down to the factory naked to work. They do that. So they do provide some of the financing. They provide food. They are very devoted, and they do pick professions that avoid the harming of animals. They're vegetarian, and they don't go into things like, they don't become butchers or shopkeepers and things like that. They're typically in finance. I guess they could be shopkeepers, but they probably wouldn't sell meat. Although there are other religions, like Seventh-day Adventists don't eat meat. And there's actually a small town with a college in Michigan where I worked for a little while, and it had it was owned by Seventh-day Adventists, and they didn't sell meat there. So I suppose you could be a shopkeeper and not actually sell meat. They had a real big grocery store, but they didn't sell meat. Subway didn't sell meat. I mean, a lot of the places had vegetarian options that aren't available anywhere except in that area. It's Berrien, I believe. Well, I worked in St. Joe, Michigan. It was right next to it. It's where Muhammad Ali had his home. Anyway, the other thing that I found is they have a repeated need for these religious or spiritual leaders. That time is cyclical, so they don't keep track of history, and they don't worry about it. It's not linear like the West. But they have this repeated need for these spiritual leaders that can teach. And the only other thing I thought was interesting about that was that for existentialists, there's a little bit of this idea that Arthur Miller and some of these existential playwrights said that, their writing was really written for that age, like in the 60s and 70s. And for Miller and others, that, they were talking to that time. And that, for example, with you guys, you might not relate well to things like Death of a Salesman or something. You may not see the existential lessons. And so a new poet, a new playwright would need to emerge to write those lessons for that new generation because they have a different approach to it. So even within the Western existential school, that need for repeated lessons, that, one lesson speaks to one person's religious pilgrimage, one person's religious teachings, don't speak to the modern day, that you need somebody to consistently and constantly be rewriting and redirecting and connecting with the people to whom these lessons are written. And so that is part of that. I think that's all I have on my sheet. So, I just wanted to give you a little bit, probably talked a little bit longer than I wanted, but I also talked about Seventh-day Adventists. So, all right.